welcome on stage Ana Ros, Franco Kovarit, featuring Miha the Forager, who rocks the stage.
Okay. Come, Miha. So, hello to everyone. I would just like to inform you that, for difference from what you saw before, we are not going to cook today, but I'm going to talk a lot about the philosophy, not only from farm to the table, but the whole philosophy of the restaurant. I think 45 minutes that are supposed to be my presentation are far too short to present you cooking techniques that are required for working so close to the forest. The processes are long, the cooking times are long, and they require really a lot of precision. So at the same time, the flight from Düsseldorf to Venice, which is our closest airport, is 1 hour, 15 minutes. There are even cheap flights to us, and I think it would be amazing to see you at our table, because I believe you really need to see the area to understand what we are doing and what we are cooking. But first of all, I would like to ask to the technicians for a very loud, short music, and then I'll explain you why. Okay, I hope you hear me. There is a good reason for this song, but first of all, the question that it appears is, I think, a question of the future, even the kitchen. Are we marionette, or are we trying to be unique? I think we will try to answer to this at the end. But anyhow, this song has a lot to do about my Berlin story. 4 or 5 months ago, I did a forehand dinner with some chefs, Austrian chefs living in Berlin, and we went to a bar after dinner. And so there was a guy who approached me, and we presented each other. He was very beautiful. And he said, so I'm a guitar player of the Killers. And I said, really? I don't know you. And he said, how comes you don't know the Killers? And I said, well, I have no clue. So he actually put the music on, and he made me listen to The Human, which is a very famous song of theirs. And I was like, I'm sorry, I've never heard this song. And then he said, I'm not upset and I'm not angry, but I'm really, like, surprised. Would you like to hear another one? And I was, sure, because I like the music. So the second one was Read My Mind. And when he finished, I was like, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I don't know your music. And he said, well, that's a surprise. So someone came around and said, do you know who she is? And he said, no. And he said, like, the best female chef of the world, 2017. And the guitar player from The Killers said, wow, that's beautiful. Should we make a selfie? And I was like, who is a rock star now, you or me? It's a super good question. Anyhow, I was really thinking a lot about that episode, especially because it is a sign what was happening with me in the last 15 years. I think the Killers were famous like 6 years ago. They still are now, but they were really at the top of their fame. And I was not present in this world. I think for 15 years of my life, I had my life closed up in the kitchen with 2 children growing up with me in the kitchen. And today I'm asking myself, is this the right way? And especially I'm asking myself if this is actually a future of us chefs.
Yeah.
So, anyhow, it's a question we will try again to answer at the end. I would like to have a little presentation of Slovenia, if it is possible. Okay. So, this is us. This is us, Slovenians. It is a super small country, 21,000 square kilometers only, which means from west to east, 3 hours of driving. From north to south, it's actually only 2. It is really small, and it is surrounded, as you can see, by very big cultural identities. Austria with Viennese cuisine on the north, Italy on the west, and then Croatia with Balkan culture on the south, which means that this small country has been super influenced by these big cultures. So when you try to define a Slovenian cuisine, you cannot. It's actually a melting pot of whatever you can imagine. But more than that, this is also one of the most diverse regions on the world. You can go from the Alpine area on the north, which is where I live. So it's actually close to Austria and Italian tree border, where you have beautiful meadows, fantastic lamps, goat kids, dairy products, bears, deers, down to the Mediterranean in only 1 hour. And then to the east, Hungary with the lowlands, with grains, with pumpkins, actually another 2 hours driving. So this is how it makes our cuisine really, really unique and a beautiful platform to work. Maybe another thing, we are one of the greenest countries on the world. Yale University said that Slovenia is the 5th greenest country on the planet. So I think this makes our country a fantastic platform to work in. Just a quick presentation of Slovenia, because I think it's important. Most of people don't even know where to spot it. We can start the slides show slowly. And I will start my story from the other side around today. I would like to tell you what happened in the last 3 years. We are a family-based restaurant with me and my husband and a few people working with us. Until in 2015, we got a call from Netflix, from Chef's Table, at the end of 2015, asking us if we were interested in being featured in the Chef's Table in the 2nd episode only. And I first never answered. I said, well, what is Netflix really? And with the 2nd email, Massimo Bottura was in the restaurant, and he said, hey, girl, are you crazy? You have to say yes. It's a big platform. The whole world is watching that. So the Chef's Table with Hisha Franco featured came out in 26th of May 2016. And this is how the life in our restaurant changed completely. The visit of our webpage went from 200 to 10,000 in 1 day. And 2 months later, we collapsed. We couldn't handle the reservation system anymore. We couldn't handle the service anymore. We couldn't handle the kitchen anymore. So we just closed the restaurant for lunch because we needed to react, because we needed to save our people. In 24 January 2017, I was voted Best Female Chef for the 50 Best Restaurants, and that was the 2nd big crossroad. In that year, which should be and was supposed to be the happiest year in my life, I did 515 interviews and 150 flights, and we actually were restructuring and professionalizing the restaurant throughout the year. We opened a small pub in the center of Kobarid, named Polonka, which cooks traditional food, and I think the whole year was on the limit of the struggle. I started running every day because I needed to focus my life, my work, my children as well, from a healthy point of view. In 2018, Hisha Franco entered for the first time in the 50 Best Restaurants, and this is how we actually arrived to a goal. The restaurant is fully booked for 3-4 months in advance, which in that countryside so far away is really incredible. And not only, we have on every day a lot of waiting lists, and we should say we made it, we arrived. But is this really what we wanted? I don't know, maybe we get to the answer at the end. Anyhow, 15 years ago, I started cooking. I was 30 years old and I was pregnant with my first boy. My life before was growing up in a very ambitious family, doing linguistic high school, being a competitive skier. I was in Yugoslav National Ski Pool. I was a dancer, and at the age of 18, I decided to study international science and diplomacy. I graduated 4 years later, and that was the year I met my husband. They had a little restaurant on Slovenian countryside. And so when my mother, who was totally upset because I left my diplomatic career, asked me, but girl, in the country where gastronomy is not recognized, in the country where in the schools they send young people who cannot do any other school to gastronomy schools, are you, girl, going to cook? You speak 5 languages, you are so intelligent. And I said to her, no, mom, I'm not going to cook. I don't know how to cook. But really a few years later, age 30, as a total self-taught, actually not even self-taught, without actually knowledge, I took over the kitchen of Hisha Franco. We were on a crossroad. We needed philosophy. We needed continuity in the kitchen. So sometimes I say you jump to the water, you don't know how deep is the water, but you know sometimes it's important to jump because if you don't take challenges, then you never know how successful your life can become or how far you can come just by wanting things. So the beginning was very difficult. Out that 2 children were born and one after the other, and I had no babysitter. We also took the first credits in the restaurant, so we needed, we couldn't travel. So that meant that we couldn't get the knowledge or we couldn't copy-paste from other restaurants. We could only realize ourselves. When you don't travel, when you don't visit other chefs, you actually, the only thing that you can do is listen to you, to your heart, to your brain, and try to interpret that. The other big problem, and this is where Micha is going to come into the conversation now, is that we've been without distributors. Hisha Franco is in a remote countryside, and this is a total contraparte. It's a total different story than a city restaurant. We had no suppliers. We had no distributors. Hisha Franco is 2 hours mountain drive from any bigger city. And when we were calling suppliers, we were asking like, hey guys, would you join us? They were, yeah, sure. But if you want, we send you things by bus. And we were like, how can you send fish by bus? How can you send lamb by bus? And it's still happening, even with all success. We still, when we need something else out of our region, we actually use the bus or quick post. So this was the most important point and probably the biggest success of Hisha Franco. In the 15 years of our work, we built a chain of local suppliers, local producers that today I think includes more than 100 people working, foraging, having gardens for us. And again, this is not because of the trends of today, because even every city restaurant would like to have gardens and foragers, but it was a need to survive, a need to have product, fresh product, to be able to cook with. So the problem in the mountain area is that people are very under-ambitious. It's not, people don't wish to be rich, people don't wish to share products with you. So it was not only about knocking on the doors and saying, hey, I know you have those 3 goat kits, would you like to share them with us? But it was more like, hey, I'm convincing you that your goat kits are the best goat kits on the world. Would you like to share them with us? And people sometimes don't even trust in the quality of products they have because, you know, there is no fine dining. They rarely go to the restaurant. So today, a little example, the community of Drežnica, which is a little village above Kobarit of 300-400 people, organize themselves into a local butchery. So every farmer can actually contribute to Hisha Franco with papers, with rabbits, lambs, goat kits. The same story goes with freshwater fish, the same story goes with foraging, the same story goes with dairy products. Today we are like a collection of whatever you can find of the best of the mountain area. So if you step on a high mountain and look around, you actually can see all the spots that Hisha Franco is sourcing. So I'm presenting you now Micha, our forager. Micha, okay, I'll ask you a question. Do you remember how we started working together?
Yeah, I remember.
Be very loud.
It was about 5 years ago when she comes for a Jeninas shuffle, Grand Shuffle to Chile, and her partner asked me to help another famous chef, Mauro Clagreco, to find wild plants that he needs to cook in Hisha Franco. And I went with him outside in the forest, and he was very satisfied with me. We found everything, maybe 20, 30 different wild plants. And after that time, when she came back from Chile, we start to work together. And from that point, first it was very like a hobby job, just for fun, and then this grew very quickly because the restaurant becomes very famous. So now we work together maybe 3-4 times per week, and for every month I gave her a list of maybe 30-40 edible plants which is in the nature, and then we decide together what we will use, how to use, and what we must be patient and careful, because sometimes you know, nature is also edible and poisonous things. And sometimes we must be very careful because phytopharmacology of these plants are, how do you say, very strange.
Well, you said to me before that very often you are so angry because you observe the work in the restaurants and you can see that they don't respect actually the level of toxins in the plants. They overuse plants so often. Can you tell me why you are angry with me sometimes?
Yes, because you know, modern chefs are like, if the plant looks very beautiful or crazy or different, it's something good for her. But you know, something this is not edible. And maybe of some plants we can eat just maybe 5, 10 leaves. If we eat too much, maybe you can become sick or have diarrhea or something. And also other chefs use also a little bit poisonous things. And I said to Anna, stop it. We must be patient because if in our restaurants maybe people eat too much this thing, maybe become allergic reaction and they start to vomit and this in restaurants.
Yeah, you know, it is a very, very big problem, and I'm really happy Micha started talking about it because in a lot of restaurants around the world, when I speak to sous chefs, they say, yeah, of course, sometimes people do have like overreactions on some food combinations. Look at you. But actually, I think working with the forest, yes, it's true, like maybe 50% of forest is edible, but do we know how much forest is not edible, how much is really toxic or even deadly toxic? In Slovenia, we have very often dead cases of people overeating some plants that are similar to others, right?
Especially the mushrooms are very specific. Some of them are very poisonous if you don't know how to use, how to prepare, or if you eat too much, or just some part of mushrooms are edible.
Yeah. Hey, Micha, can you tell everyone how you started foraging? I think it's a beautiful story. It has to do a lot with Slovenians and how we actually try to earn money sometimes.
First, I just going to forest with my father, just picking up mushrooms, just for fun. And when I was young, instead of student work, I tried to sell mushrooms to local restaurants and to Italy, because you know, Italian people are crazy for mushrooms, and I sell mushrooms and earn enough money. And this was my student work. But maybe 5 years ago...
But your father was an amazing forager too, no?
Yes,
he has
also.
a big knowledge of the mushrooms. His father is a doctor, by the way.
And maybe 5 years ago, in our area, was a big wine, how do you say, wine storm and a lot of sleet and heavy winter, and a lot of forest was completely destroyed and damaged.
I just explained you, it was actually -2, -3 degrees, and it was for a few days raining, and it meant that when the rain came down to -2, -3, it started freezing, and it started freezing on the trees. So in 3-4 days, we had one of the hugest damage in the forest in Europe because the trees started breaking down, and we have like between 600 and 1,000 meters, the whole belt of the forest completely ruined.
And then I started to find a new solution for me, and then I learned a lot about wild plants around in the grass, in the garden, in the forest. And I also doing some course with special people like Mauro Colagreco, who is very famous in Slovenia, and also my girlfriend helped me because he studied biology. And then Anna called me and I started to work with her. But in the beginning it was very difficult for me because I don't know exactly. She wants to have the same plants on the menu maybe for 1 month.
That's the creative
part. But for me,
yeah.
maybe 1 week, the one plants are flowering, and then was dead. And Anna wants more and more and more. And first, maybe just 50 plants, 50 flowers of this. But then after 2-3 years, now she wants maybe 300, 400 plants of the same. And you know, we have also like forager rules. We must pick up maybe 20-30% of the flowers on the one area. Otherwise, the next year will be nothing. And also, in the beginning, we start picking up on the sunny places. And after 1 month, we must go higher. And when there's not so much sun, to find the same plant for her menu.
Yeah, but can you imagine how elastic and how creative you have to be in the restaurant as a chef when you work so close to the nature? Let's say Micha says to me, hey Anna, here is the list of the plants that are coming out tomorrow if it rains, and then maybe for 1 week. So I have a few days to actually study the menu, to study the dishes, to put them out, and then maybe a huge rain comes and Micha calls from the forest and he's like, hey Anna, it's gone. And I'm like, I had the course sometimes on the menu only a few days, and a few days later we have to say goodbye. So I would like just to explain you, because we are just finalizing the book, how it looked like in the last 3 months, working very close to Micha and working very close to the nature. So this year we signed a contract with Phaidon, with a huge editing house from the United States and England, who makes one of the most beautiful chef's monographies. It's a dream of every chef to have a book with Phaidon. And yeah, since I'm a person who is not very self-confident and needs a lot of time for decision, I actually came in a time, 3 months to a due date. I had no story written and no photos made. So also because I thought I don't want no one else to write my book. I would like to write it myself. I don't want ghost writers. I don't want any translators. And I would like also to write the recipes myself. So I started writing the recipes, the text. I hired a young journalist, research journalist from Slovenia who was writing the facts, but all other texts were direct in English, mine. For the recipes, the book is coming out next year. So I said, I'm not going to use all the dishes from 2-3 years ago, because in 1 year time, I'm not going to identify myself with them. So I said, let's do it. Let's create 75 new dishes, starting 3 months ago, until the day of today. Because when we finish this platform, I actually go in the office and I'm sending material to the editing house. So it is the D-Day. So this is where we really started working so close with Micha. So Micha was in the forest with the phone, and he was like, Anna, it's crazy. There are so many mushrooms coming out. And there is like mushroom A, B, C. And I was like, collect them. We need to work hard. We really need to force. We need, in these 3 months, to actually make sure that the philosophy of Fischer Franco, working so close to the season and to the nature, is visible. So 1 month to go, that was exactly 1 month ago, there was a catastrophe happening. I'm like a drama queen. There is always something going on around me. So one evening after the service, my sous chef comes to me. She's American, and she says, you know, the restaurant is changing. We are becoming so much more creative and so quick. I feel like a cancer for the team. I don't feel I can manage this anymore. It's like I don't think I'm strong enough anymore. And I was like, what does that mean? She says, I would like to leave. And I was like, are you joking? You promised me, you know, help with recipes. And she was like, I feel a cancer. And when you feel you are cancer, you need to cut the cancer away right away. And I said, so how much time do you have? And she says, none. I would like to leave now. I'm American. You know, when I take a decision, I would like to go. And I was like, Jesus, we are in the month of August with 70 guests per day. And I actually am losing a sous chef. Plus, we are due to the book 1 month to go. And she says, you know, you will see, you will get out as a winner. Together with her, we had 2 more chefs de partie leaving, because they really created a group before. And I thought I will never make it. Today, here on stage, I can say that thanks to Micha, thanks to a lot of people in the kitchen that have been so loyal, so dedicated. We worked so hard. We were able to recreate a really happy restaurant, which is so creative, that Micha actually said to me that he sees a huge difference, because I not only take a plant and put it on a dish, but I actually started thinking as a plant. I started using the flavors, the textures, and I was really, really happy for. So what is happening now is like for the last week, I was just cleaning mushrooms. How many mushrooms did you bring?
A lot.
Yeah. So we actually, just in 1 week time, put on the menu 4 different mushroom dishes, from a dessert to different textures of black trumpets, porcini mushrooms. But you know, the moon will change tomorrow and we will remain without them. So you have to use the moment and that only moment. So would you like to add something else?
Maybe.
Maybe?
Maybe. Yeah, you know, sometimes it's very fun. You're alone in nature. You're relaxed, fresh air, without pollution, because we live in a very clean area. But I must get up very early, maybe at 5 or 6 o'clock, because the plants must be fresh. And also if outside is heavy rain, she still needs the same plant on the menu. Every second day I bring everything. So if it's rain, very hot, I must go in the forest and picking up plants. Sometimes it's fun, sometimes it's difficult, but I enjoy my job.
But you know, what I wanted to add now is we change a little bit of system of working. And this is where we actually come to the future of food and why this conversation for me is so important, because the humanity is going to face hunger in maximum 15 years. So Micha very often got very upset because he got the list of plants we needed without specific number of how much we need. So he kept on bringing, let's say, wood roof, and he came with a box of wood roof, and there was still a wood roof from 2 days ago. And he was like, hey, Anna, but that's not correct. I mean, you still have wood roof for 2 days. Why would you be ordering today a fresh one? Because I'm actually emptying the forest then for the plants to be thrown away. So we actually precised his foraging into precise numbers. Since we know the precise number of guests, we actually precise the exact number of leaves and plants that we need. So it goes like 600 leaves of yarrow, 350 leaves of yarrow flower, and so on and so on and so on. Also, because when you leave the plants in the fridge dries the plant, so the essential oils are gone. The best plant is actually the plant that is just picked and put on the plate and nothing else. Maybe another thing about the foraging in Slovenia. You know, Slovenia is a land of foragers and gardens. We have no cities. The biggest city in Slovenia is Ljubljana with 350,000 people. And even in Ljubljana, most of people who live in Ljubljana are farmers. There are people who maybe a generation or 2 generations ago were moving from the farms to the city. So in the time when dandelion or maybe elder blossoms come to their moment, you see so many people around, not eating the salads from the garden, but eating wild plants in their food. That's why in our traditional cuisine, we also have a lot of recipes which talk about overgrown plants. So the plants that overgrow in the meadows, in the forest, are actually reused in the kitchen, in the plates like postokia, which is actually you mash the plants with potatoes and onions, and then you season everything with vinegar. Or you have bišća, which is a soup made out of the overgrown plants. In the countryside life, where people never had too much, they always knew how to live very, very close to the nature. And this is where I come to my conclusion. You know, I was a lot in contact with United Nations in the past months. They approached a few chefs who work close to the nature, because like the numbers we are facing today are actually incredibly dangerous. You know, Chinese are buying every empty land they can get. In South America, in Africa, they actually bought all possible lands because they know that not only Chinese, but the whole world is going to face hunger. Chinese also buy licenses or get licenses to fish the richest seas of the world. I know exactly the example of the sea around Capo Verde, which is the sea between Senegal and Brazil. The Capo Verdean government gave licenses to Chinese people to actually wild fish without limit. In 5-year time, there is a huge difference in the ocean already. Jacques Cousteau said something like 15 or 20 years ago that the sea around Capo Verde is the richest sea on the world. Today, if you go to the fish market in Salere, you actually sometimes have to fight for the fish to get it. So it is going very quickly. It's not that we are facing hunger in 100 years' time. We probably are facing it in 15 years. I was approached in the month of January by the richest Slovenian couple who actually became really heavy, like a few billion euros, because they did one computer program, entertaining actually. So they sold the company and they reinvested the money to Harvard University for the studies how to fight the hunger in the world. And this rich couple said to me, you know, Anna, our children don't want to have children today because they're afraid that their children and themselves will suffer hunger. Well, is it so dangerous? You know, the high institutions and the aware people are actually already saying it is very dangerous. So I think the way Hisha Franco acts today, so working in a little community of farmers, foragers, people with gardens, taking from the nature only and exactly what we need, farming in a traditional way, sustainable, traceable is maybe one of the answers that all of us, you guys who listen to me, all chefs that are here, can do something, be role models, but maybe if we act in a right way, we can be the first ones and the best possible examples that the humanity will be going in the right direction. So I'm really thankful, Miha, because he teaches me every day so much. He's sometimes really angry with me, and he can talk me harsh, because, you know, sometimes you have to listen to people. We are never intelligent enough. But I also do listen to a farmer, and I do listen to my mother-in-law, who still plants the garden, following the moon calendar, and planting the flowers in the middle of the chicory, and saying, hey, you must not plant now, plant tomorrow. Or never plant before May 1st, because the frost can come. You know, we always think we are more intelligent than nature, but nature is showing us the lessons now. So I hope you understood my message. I hope you enjoyed, and yeah, that's it from that remote green part of Slovenia. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Anna and Mia, thank you so much. It was a really great presentation.
Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm. So we have this knife we do, yeah, every year for CHEF-SACHE, the 2018 edition.
Just for my hand, huh?
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
This for you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you,
Thank you
Mia.
for listening.